But let's move to the next topic, and Ricky, can only be the Bulls here on
the Bulls.
the Most Valuable Podcast channel.
Chicago Bulls.
Chicago-based podcast company with a lot of Chicago fans, so we're going to need the coverage of their picks in this draft. That being at 7, them taking guard out of UNC, Michael Jeffrey. Oh, wait, no, wrong one. That was 83 or 84. They took Coby White, 6'5 guard, out of North Carolina at the 7th pick. And then at the 38th pick, they took Daniel Gafford, center from Arkansas. Let's focus more on Coby first, just because he is the first-round pick. A lot of people are going to care about him more. And Bulls finally get their point guard. But you weren't really happy with it on the live stream. Asking you now, you had a couple hours to sit with it. Was Coby White the right pick for the Bulls at 7?
So here's the deal I'm sitting with. Is Coby White a bad player? No. Is he going to help the Bulls be better? Yes. The thing that I sit with the Bulls, and this was the kind of conundrum that I was sitting with even back at the Combine when they're like, ooh, the Bulls promised Coby White. And I remember on the PTP 2 weeks ago we had mentioned it, and I was like, hey, you know what? Rumor is when the Bulls promise someone, we're going to take them. And you were like, well, yeah, the rumors are probably true. It's now twice in a row. Hey, we promised Hutch. We took Hutch. Hey, we promised Coby White. We took Coby White. I just feel with this pick, and the reason why I am down on it, and yes, Coby White can prove me wrong, and I hope he does. But the reason why I'm not excited about this pick is I feel like this was the Bulls doing what you and Dave always yelled at me for in mock drafts. Is like, I would say, yeah, but this team needs a point guard. And you'd be, idiot. This guy's the best player. Like last year. Well, this team doesn't need Luka. Idiot. Luka. Like that's what it was. Where that's when I'm almost like, Garpax. Idiot. Cam Reddish. Idiot. This guy. Like there were other guys I would have picked, and Cam Reddish was the one that I really would have picked because I'm thinking about next year. Next year, I know that Dave brought up a good point of like, oh, well, if we were healthy, we wouldn't have been in the top 10. We might have been a playoff team in the East, and we could be a playoff team in the East. I don't think we will be because, A, it's wishful thinking because I want a better draft pick because we're not, even if we get the 8, if Kawhi stays with, not even Kawhi, if the Bucks get the number 1 seed again, we're not beating the Bucks in the first round of the playoffs. Good luck with that one. And I just think it would be better to have one more lottery pick. And next year is loaded with point guards. And I know 2 of those point guards, one being Dosunmu from Illinois, is a combo guard. There's another person that's a combo guard. I think it's the guy out of France, is a combo guard for next year of what could be there. And I looked at it on NBADraft.net of like guys that could be there. And in their mock, 6 of the top 10 were point guards. And I look at it and I go, we could have taken a guy like Cam Reddish, still gotten a really good player, and then just worry about that point guard last year. Like I was fine with rolling with Chris Dunn and then signing either a Pat Bev or a D'Lo this year. I didn't think we needed to say we need a point guard, but we went with point guard. And now we got to see what Coby White can do in Chicago, because there's no point of saying, well, what could Cam Reddish do? He's not here. So it's what will Coby White now do with the Bulls?
I said this in the live stream, and I think you make some fair points, and don't get me wrong, but for 2 years, pretty much, ever since Derrick Rose has left, all I've heard in our comment section from you, from Dave, from callers on Chicago Sports Radio, from coworkers, from family members, the Chicago Bulls need a point guard. And you got one. And I'm not a huge fan of Coby White as a player. Not down on him. I'm just not a huge fan of him. I had him at 12 on my big board, so it went up a little bit, 5 spots. But I think he is a great fit with the Chicago Bulls, and I talked about this on the podcast. He's a guard that excels at driving, and some people might look at his stat sheet and be like, well, he took 6.6 threes a game at UNC, but a large part of his money was made by drawing the defense in with his speed and attacking the bucket. And he didn't go to the line a lot. He didn't get hit a ton, which is good for his body. And I think he's going to need to, work on his free throws just a little bit just to make sure, because I think he's going to get hit a little bit more driving the bucket in the NBA. But I think a big part of what he's going to be able to do is draw people in and open it up for Levine and open it up on the outside for Markkanen and open it up on the outside for Porter and possibly even Wendell Carter Jr. as well. Because, I mean, he's shown, at least in college, to be able to show a stroke. He didn't think he had enough reps last year to be able to show his abilities from the outside. But Coby going to the line, about four times a game last year, I think that was a little bit low for him, especially with his playing style. And I think a big thing that he was able to do was come up the floor, hit a three, and then that would bring the defense out so he could drive in. And he was a guy that shot 50% from the field from forced twos. So, I mean, he's a guy that's very efficient when going to the bucket, and I absolutely love his game at that. So I think that Coby being able to do that, drawing that defense in, will just open up everything else for the outside players, and I think that's going to be huge for the Bulls, and that's really what they need is just being able to draw people in, opening up those shooters, and having that threat of someone that's going to drive in outside of Zach LaVine, because that's a huge part about Zach LaVine, and that was something that we saw at least Otto Porter have success with them last year, is he was scoring 18 points because he was so good at driving in and slashing for the Bulls. He's also a phenomenal three-point shooter. He did everything well for the Bulls last year, but a large part of his game was driving in and attacking the bucket, and I think that's what Coby White's going to do well. Now, I don't think he's an excellent defender, and that's going to be a little bit worrying, but you
the
have
question
Chris Dunn.
Is he, and yes, we have Chris Dunn, but the question defensively is he going to be good enough to cover for Zach LaVine's deficiencies on defense? That's the question I have for him.
No, not at all. I think he's going to be similar to... No, because I wanted to say he's going to be similar to Colin Sexton when it comes to defense, at least being a guy that needs to put in a lot of energy and a lot of hustle into his defense. But Colin Sexton's much bigger than Coby White, so I think he's going to have much more much more trouble with playing defense.
Yeah.
But at least with Sexton doesn't have a big wingspan, and neither does Coby White. I don't know. No, to answer your question, no, he's not going to be able to cover for Zach LaVine. And that's probably your biggest worry with that. But you have Otto Porter, who's a plus defender. You have Willie Cauley. I always want to say Willie Cauley Jr. Wendell Carter Jr. to make up for that deficiency. And you also have Chris Dunn, who's a fantastic point guard, a defensive point guard as well, that can help you out. So will he grow into one? Probably not, but he might be one of those high-effort guys that can probably poke the ball loose, especially with the speed, jumping lanes more rather than going in and attacking, and at least poking the ball loose. So, no, I do not think that he's going to be able to cover for Zach LaVine defensively. But maybe you look for Pat Bev in free agency to add him on, and obviously we know what he can do defensively to shut down players. So,
do you think the Bulls still try to add a D Rose or a Pat Bev?
I think they look to add Pat Bev, yes.
And add 3 point guards on it. Because, I mean, technically, White's a combo guard. I don't know on Spot Rack or anything with people, or even in the Bulls program, are they going to list him as a point guard or list him as a shooting guard? I guess it doesn't matter because he can play both. We mentioned that on the live stream. I just think the things, and I'm looking also at Pippen ain't easy, kind of like what they're saying. And the two things that they mention are, one, fit-wise, Coby White is perfect for the Bulls. His 6'5" frame gives him high defensive upside, which is critical in a backcourt next to a guy like Zach LaVine, who struggles mightily at defense. And then they also talk about how he can shoot it lights out. And the Bulls were terrible. We were last in three-pointers made last season. My only questions, though, is not only is it the defense next to Zach LaVine, because I do think that although he's not terrible defensively, he's not like a defensive stopper where it's like Coby White is the defensive stopper next to, he's not that Rajon Rondo next to Drew Holiday situation. And then it's the threes is question 2. Yes, he's good at shooting the three. He made, 35% in college? Yeah, 35%, averaged about 6 to 7 a game. However, he was also a streaky shooter in college where he would have games where he was either lights out or it was kind of like, okay, there's a little bit of a dry spell here, and then he got things going, which leads me into my third question.
Well, that was a big thing. Was when he was not able to draw the defense in by his driving, they were able to close out on him.
Which you think he will be able to do in Chicago, no doubt.
No, I don't.
Okay.
That's why I don't love him as a prospect. I'm just saying, if it works, I think he has
if they're able to
the
draw
lane
in.
for him to work in Chicago is clear. He just needs to be able to do it efficiently.
Which
That's
I
the
will
thing.
say,
I don't think he's going to be a great off-ball shooter. Well, if it's open, I think he'll knock him down. But I think
which could happen if Zach's driving in and he's open on the outside.
But if he's not, I don't think they're going to be like he's not going to be able to have a guard in front of him, catching a pass, and then being able to create for himself. Yeah. He's not one of those guys. He's not like Luka, where he would catch the ball and then obviously shake off a defender, step back, and hit a three. He's not one of those players that
he's
can
a catch
create
and shoot
a lot
guy,
of.
Is what you're saying.
Yeah, he's not going to create a ton of separation. He's more going to be able to knock down open threes.
Which, if you think about it, could help him because Automatic Porter had success with that when Zach would drive in, kick it out, Otto kicks it up 4-3, gave us a boost in that. Those are basically my three questions: is what will he do defensively? How will the production of threes be? And number three, the last one is, let's say there's time where Zach's on the bench and Coby's out there running the second unit. Can he run the second unit? Because that's a big thing. We need someone when Zach's on the bench who can be that guy that I'm going to run it, and not only am I going to create assists, but I'm going to be able to drive to the basket and draw defenders.
Well, that's how he's going to be able to create assists.
Does.
He's not going to dominate you in the pick and roll. He's not going to pick you apart like that.
He's going to drive.
He's going to drive and kick out. That's the main way that he, really saw that success in UNC, and that's why
drive and kick out the Laurie.
That's why Cam Johnson's a number 11 pick. That's why Luke May was. Oh, also Luke May didn't get drafted. That's why Luke May, was so effective in college. That's why. Not really Nasir Little because he wasn't effective in college. But the players at UNC, they were so effective was because Coby White's speed would drive into defense. They would collapse. They would try to rush and obviously close out, and then they wouldn't be able to do so. So I think that's a huge thing with that team is that I absolutely love that they're able to, that Coby White will be able to do is at least draw that in and open up those shooters. And he might not be a traditional point guard that I think Chicago needs or Chicago wanted. But he will be able to get assists. He'll be able to open up the outside for this team. And I think what he gives the Bulls is another ball handler. And I think that he can be a primary ball handler. It's just when Zach's not out there, now who's the backup too? And can't be Arcidiacono because that dude sucks. So now filling out the bench is going to be the biggest, at least, goal for the Chicago Bulls. But I like the pick. I was down on them. I thought they needed to take the best player available. But looking at who was available, and if I had to power rank the players for the Chicago Bulls, it was it was Culver, it was Hunter, it was Garland, and then it was Coby. And obviously they missed out on those first three because they all went. But then then obviously Coby was available. I would have taken Coby White over Cam Reddish. I think you address the need over taking a mystery box in Cam Reddish, really.
Yeah, and to me, when the pick happened, of course, the emotions kind of run through you as a fan. I was really hoping we'd take Cam Reddish, but I just, right now, it's wait and see of all right, Coby, you're a Bull. You're one of us. Now it's, what are you going to do for us? And I hope he does great things. The second round, though, was completely different for me. I loved it. Daniel Gafford. Rolo is a free agent. Don't know if we're going to re-sign him. Wendell will probably be our 5, Markkanen at the 4. But, Gafford's a guy that many last year but the day he chose to go back to college, Brandon and I did a big board, had him in the top 25. People complained, hey, he's going back to college. This year, there were at times we had him in the late first round. Getting him in the second round, I think, is a steal for the Bulls, who can be a rim protector for us off the bench, can be a rebounder for us off the bench, and he can be someone for, I know the league is all about spacing, but if we need someone close to the rim, he can be that guy for us because he's not going to step out and shoot many threes.
Yeah, I think... I think Gafford was a fantastic pick for them. And the fact that he fell all the way to 38 was a mistake. But a big thing with that, too, is centers are just not addressed at all throughout this whole draft. Naz Reid went undrafted. Zylan Cheatham, who we mentioned earlier on, went undrafted as well. I was surprised by both those players. Jackson Hayes went higher than we thought, but even then, Goga fell all the way to 18.
Yep.
And then we saw Kabengele go, but Kabengele isn't really even a technical center. He's more of a 4-5, and he could stretch the floor.
Who was it in the live stream that's like, if Pop or Jerry West want you, you're good.
Yeah, I forget who it was. But then, Nick Claxton goes in the second round. He was seen as a first-round talent. At least that's why he was invited to the green room.
Yeah.
Bruno Fernando kind of went where we thought he was going to go, too. But then Gafford goes, and I look at him versus Fernando, and I think the only reason why Fernando's above Gafford is because Bruno Fernando showed a little bit of a shot when it came to the outside. So I think that's probably why he went above him. But when you look at Gafford's extremely polished. He can add a ton to your team, at least rolling to the basket. He's a big body. He can protect the rim. I think the only thing that I worry about him is him not being dynamic enough offensively. Mm-hmm. But with that, I think he kind of just ends up filling the role that Bobby Portis left. Obviously, he's a little bit bigger than Bobby Portis. And the hole that might be left by Rolo. He's a guy that I think if he is motivated, he's going to add a lot of punch to this team. And he might not bring the veteran leadership that Rolo did, but I think he could bring similar length, similar rebound abilities, and similar strength to this team. So I think Gafford at 38 is a fantastic pick.
The question is, what does he feel about mascots? Because Rolo didn't like mascots, and we need someone who's going to be an enforcer against those mascots from those pesky other teams and that pesky Benny the Bull that we got. I totally agree with the Bruno Fernando to Daniel Gafford thing. Is the reason why Gafford didn't go to Atlanta was Bruno's more of a fit for them. It is more of the big that they were looking for, someone that can pass a little bit better, can step out and make an outside shot, and obviously the rebounding, both of them have that, but the passing for Bruno, I would say, is better. I mean, even the Bulls, if they wanted to, with Daniel Gafford, because his defense isn't perfect, what we could do in some situations if we want, and this is in the season, if Lowry needs a rest, Lowry's on the bench. All right, Wendell moved to the 4, Gafford at the 5, and Wendell, because of how good defensively he is, he can kind of cover for Gafford, where Gafford kind of has his lacks in the fundamentals for defense. Yeah,
and overall with the Bulls, what direction do you think they're going to go after, at least looking at this team? Because last year you had
agency?
What's that?
Or just in general?
Just in general, because last year you had 2 picks where you ended up taking Chandler Hutchinson and you got Wendell Carter Jr. Mm-hmm. Before that, you got Lauri Markkanen. You were able to add Zach LaVine in that trade as well, along with Chris Dunn. Now you're able to add 2 players that we think are going to be impact players for them in Coby White and Daniel Gafford. What's the next step for them in filling out this roster? And is there a clear need for this team? Because obviously it was point guard, and you feel like they didn't address it fully with you thinking Coby White's going to be a combo guard. So what's the next move for them, both in free agency, possibly in trades, and at least making sure that this team is a little less pathetic than they have been over the past year?
I mean, defensively, I think our free agency, the thing I think that is basically a need is we need a veteran point guard, because Chris Dunn is not super young, but he's not a veteran. Also, you've got Coby White, who is young. He's a rookie. Adding a Pat Bev, adding a D Rose would at least have a veteran presence in that point guard. And kind of I like the idea that someone had in our comment section before the draft of basically signing a Pat Bev, at the time having him be a mentor to Chris Dunn, and that fell into another reason why I said we didn't necessarily need Coby White. But I look at right now and I know all of this could change based on next year, because how many guys we had Semi Chateau our way too early mock draft. We had Quentin Grimes in the top 10 of our way too early mock draft, and neither of those guys were in the top 10. of this draft.
Shit,
So
you didn't even get drafted.
exactly, and Grimes went back to
Grimes
college.
went to college.
I look at next year, and next year's draft is going to be interesting because from what I'm looking right now, it's heavily point guard. Like, it's heavily point guarded with like a sprinkling of some bigs where you've got Isaiah Stewart, who's a big from going to Washington. Obviously, James Wiseman at Memphis. We'll see how he does this year. You've got Precious, who's also at Memphis. Killian Hayes was the guy I was talking about, that combo guard from France. But then you also got like Charles Bassey, who went back to college. We'll see how he does. Quentin Grimes, we'll see how he does because everyone was high on him. And also with the Bulls, it is a big question. David proposed it, was if this team is healthy and we make the playoffs, we're not a lottery team. We're picking at like 15 next year. So, I mean, that is a possibility that I see that I don't want us to have because there's part of me that looks at it, and especially this year with the new odds of the draft, I feel like the Bulls, the best thing for next year, we can compete a little bit better. Let's say we're at, instead of 22 points per game, if we can add 11 wins and get to 33 wins, that would be good. Like, staying, like 33 would be the benchmark, but still staying in the lottery. And the reason why I say that is, how many wins did New Orleans and Memphis have? 33. And they were the 1 and 2 pick because of the new odds. So, I mean, to me, it doesn't necessarily, we don't have to be racing and having a race for the top 3 picks, but we got to stay in the lottery next year. I don't want us to be like that year 2 years ago that you mentioned, where we made the playoffs and we're locked at 15.
If you made the playoffs, are you upset?
Yes, because we're getting bounced by Milwaukee in the first round. We're getting bounced by Milwaukee or a Kawhi-led Raptors team.
Wouldn't you rather have a better team, though?
Nope.
Wouldn't you rather have a team that's at least you're proud of watching?
Give me the draft. Like, I can be proud of watching a team and still be a lottery team.
All right.
Like, I mean, there were teams this year in the lottery that didn't have as much glim hope. I think, like, New York was probably one of the ones that were, like, New York was, hey, we're going to get those free agents. But, like, Miami and Charlotte, they didn't have a bad time watching their team. New Orleans, the only bad thing was that you had the whole Anthony Davis thing looming over you. Memphis wasn't a bad team
in the last week.
Yeah, last week.
Once Anthony Davis sat out, that team was horrible.
No, and that's the thing. Like that's
horrible.
They had the Anthony Davis situation.
Charlotte was only fun when they were winning in the first month. That team got pathetic too.
And I feel like this could be a fun team of, like, I know the expectations, but I don't want to make the playoffs just to get bounced in the first round. That doesn't help us.
I think if you go out and sign, I think Pat Beverly wants to be here badly, or at least he's showing on Twitter.
With arms wide open, Pat Bev.
Yeah, but that's your fan base. You got to go through guard packs.
With arms wide open.
I think in the end, though, you're probably not going to get him. You're probably going to get like David Nwaba back.
Derrick Rose.
Not
you're
even
getting Derrick Rose.
You're not going to get anybody you like. I don't know. I think if you're going to go after that, you need to address the point guard situation. You need to address the 4 situation as well, because I don't think you have a good backup idea behind
After
marketing.
Lowry.
And then I think it's probably just filling out the bench in general, because you can't throw out Arcidiacono and Wayne Selden Jr. and all these guys. I think the biggest thing too is I want to see
Felicio.
how. Yeah, well, Felicio you're gonna have to throw out there because that dude's signed long term. But I think the biggest thing that I think you're gonna look at, not only what Garpax needs to do, but what Jim Boylan can do building this team up. Because if they're able to have at least some success and the team is playing well and they're getting along, I think that's the biggest thing. Because you heard so much about Jim Boylan and the team not liking him early on, and then warming up a little bit at the end. If he's able to keep that mojo, I think that's going to be the biggest positive for the Bulls, is at least having a coach that is getting along with the players. And maybe you don't like his philosophy because he said some stupid things before. But if it ends up being progress, that's all the Bulls can hope for.
It depends. Is Coby White going to be what I'm calling a Boylan bro, is what I've labeled it on the podcast that Dave and I did.
What does that mean?
Basically, it's just like Dave started throwing out like the coach's last name with like something that means like friend, so it's like a friendly thing. A Boylan bro is like that you agree with Boylan. You're not going to fight with him, and we're all happy here, which that's the one thing with White that I won't say will be an issue, I don't think, because you look at Nasir Little and how much problems he had with Roy Williams. Well, Boylan, to me, kind of runs the ship kind of similarly to a Roy Williams, where it's like, this is it. All right, coach, that's what we're going to do, kind of a situation. So, I mean, that won't be a problem because Coby White was used to that at UNC, having that, like, older coach that's kind of like, oh, with Boylan, I almost get a sense of, like, it's my way or the highway from him.
Just thinking about your nickname, though, I think that's too douchey. I think with Boylan, with how serious Jim Boylan is, I think you need to go like more
military term.
No, I think it needs to be the exact opposite. I think it needs to be like a Teletubby thing. So like Boylan's buds,
that works.
Or Boylan's buddies.
Boylan's buddies.
Boylan's buddies.
You know what? I dig that. Yeah. Boylan's buddies.
Because Boylan Bros doesn't. I think Boylan's buddies is better. Anyways, let us know what you think about the Bulls draft down in the comments below. I think it was the right pick, Coby White, for them, and I think Darius, not Darius Garland, that would have been a great pick. I think Daniel Gafford was a great pick as well. I think it was a good all around draft from the Bulls. There wasn't a player at 38 that I think you could have addressed more of their team needs with that pick. I don't think there was a player that they kind of missed out on at all. I think Gafford was a good pick there.
And the ones that I was kind of looking at beforehand were like Isaiah Roby. We worked out Lewis King twice, and then Shamori Pons were the ones I thought we were going to get.
King you might be able to get as an undrafted free agent. Yeah. So he didn't get picked. So that might have shown a reason why he wasn't gone. But let us know what you think about the Bulls draft down in the comments below.